morning. It is 7:30 on a Sunday, and we're gonna open up and wake up the building for worship. Like that.
Long before people arrive at Hancock on Sunday morning, lots of careful preparation goes into the service. On Tuesdays, the staff meets to plan out each part of worship, discuss the logistics of the upcoming service, and finalize the contents of the bulletin.
Oliver, David is not able to be with us in the morning. Katie, I've put you down for the prayer of invocation. Perfect. Does that work for you? Yep. Okay. I'll do the intro, and Oliver, I have you reading the text. So it's the Ruth passage. Does that work?
Great.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to writing a sermon, there are really three things that preachers try to keep in mind. One is the Bible passage. What is the actual text that we're preaching on? The second is what is happening in the world that matters to my congregation right now, that raises up the questions of the values of our congregation and how we need to speak to that. And then the third is what is happening in the congregation right now and what is the good news that my congregation needs to hear. Has there been a big loss recently? Are we in a time of transition? Is there a big joy that we need to celebrate? Like what's happening, and how do I speak to that? But how do I speak to that through the lens of these other two things? So it's really finding a thread for each of these and then sort of weaving them together. And then there's a process of just spending time in prayer, really getting quiet and still and trusting the word that I feel like God gives me and just trusting that. Then there's a process of writing and editing and then practicing the delivery of it. And then there is the final thing of just simply letting it go and trusting the Holy Spirit to do with it what she will.
Each Sunday, members of the Parish Life Committee come into the church early to start making the coffee and tea, maybe before some of us have even rolled out of our beds at home. Sharon Kendall and Ellen Peckham are here this morning, cranking up the huge coffee pots, bringing out the cups, platters, and napkins from storage, plating the cookies that volunteers provide, carrying out the coffee urns, and setting up the display table, all to be ready later when the rest of us come down from church, eager for caffeine and something sweet.
On Bell Sundays at 8 o'clock, Marilyn Becker and the Bell Choir set up and warm up for the service. They already met on Wednesday to rehearse today's program.
I like to have 4 rehearsals on each piece of music. We look at the theme that is going to be in the service, whether we're looking for something introspective to be as a prayer response or a prelude to open the service. So we're looking seasonally. And then I'm always thinking about my ringers, like do they need a challenge piece now? Or do we have too many challenge pieces?
Normally we're here at 9 o'clock getting ready for the service, and earlier in the week we've spent about an hour preparing the titles, the graphics for the current service. Anim is doing the directing and handling the switching, determine what our camera shots are going to be and what's going to go out live when. And there's a person today, it happens to be Lori, who will be running the cameras, getting them positioned for the next shot that we will need. And today I'll be on audio, choosing hopefully the right microphones for the right activity.
Yeah, I'm going over the readings that I'm doing this morning and making sure that everything's buttoned up, because I like to kind of spend the last hour before worship just saying hi to people, saying good morning. So the 2.5 hours before this are pretty packed in order to get to 9 a.m. and feeling like settled and ready to go.
So I'm setting up for Kids Church right now. Most of my prep actually happens during the week, and I just come in the morning to get a couple of things in place. So I set up our Glad Hearts Jar, which is one of the things that we do every week. You can also see that we set up fun activities like today, because we're talking about Jacob wrestling with the angel. We're doing our own slightly safer form of wrestling, which is tug of war.
Okay.
I'm here on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays and working on that. So the good thing about the service is that we follow the narrative lectionary. And so I have curriculum materials that follow the same lectionary that I'm able to draw off.
By 8:30, the choir is in place to warm up for the service. Each program is the result of months of planning by Mark Morgan and the singers and musicians.
From the choir's standpoint, it's usually a 3 to 6 week turnaround from the time they first encounter a piece until we actually do it in worship. It all starts from the text and the theme from the ministers. Everything's bound to that. And I start putting together a schedule over the course of the summer so that I can hit the ground running in September.
So every Sunday before worship, we meet quite a ways in advance of worship to share joys and concerns, to share the congregational needs that we know of going into today, to also talk about any sort of logistical details that we need to discuss, which increasingly there are more and more of as we're in full swing with the church year, and then to pray, which is an important grounding time for all of us. Oh, dear God, it is Sunday. We are grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for this team. There are many moving parts to today. Pray for the parent group, for the Bells, for Ian's first Sunday with us.
Communion setup is another activity taking place in preparation for Sunday services. It starts with getting the bread very early at Wilson Farms. The table is set up in the sanctuary. The communion elements are prepared in the basement and then brought upstairs and arranged carefully on the table in the sanctuary, and then covered until communion is offered by the ministers during the service. Even the bulletins that we pick up before every service need hours of preparation.
It's Friday morning, and this is when I print the bulletin usually. The bulletin process starts for me on Tuesday when we go through the order of worship at staff meeting, and I try to have everything print ready by the end of the day, Thursday, then Friday morning. That way I can print Friday morning. Here, ran out of paper. So now we'll keep going. We have a few over here. Just flip through one of them to just make sure it printed nicely. And we just let the machine go.
The ushers and greeters spend the last minute preparing the sanctuary to receive the congregation as they come in.
So this is what initiates the bell ringing.
Yeah, gotta ring the bell.
That's the button.
Try not to do it while the choir is practicing.
Good morning, Hancock Church. It is so very good to see all of you this morning. I welcome you.
Thanks to the entire Hancock community for all your support, both the hours of effort and the financial resources that you all contribute. This is a remarkable congregation, truly committed, now more than ever, to changing the world through love, compassion, and courage.
When friends rejoice